Hi there, good morning and welcome. This is my summary synopsis video for week number 8 of our semester. So here's our course webpage. Here's the cookbook that we worked through. Let's just quickly review what we did. We had big question 7, 8, and 9. Big question 7 is about how much do we know? How much don't we know yet? And that's an important thing to recognize, right? We don't know everything about the climate system. We don't understand global warming perfectly. Absolutely not, right? And the tiger puzzle helps with that. However, we also have to understand that we do not need to have 100% certainty, perfection in our understanding in order to take prudent action. And in fact, expecting 100% certainty from science is inappropriate, right? Except in very trivial circumstances, science cannot give you 100% certainty. So you always have to make choices and decisions, excuse me, with some level of uncertainty left. So that's important to recognize. We went to big question 8, the idea of natural causes of climate change versus human causes of climate change. So we discussed that. And then we looked at this really interesting time period there in the 60s and 70s where global warming kind of stopped for a little bit. Well, maybe for 10, 20 years or so, maybe a little bit longer. The planet was actually kind of not warming anymore, it was actually cooling a little bit. And that period can tell us a lot about the climate system, how the climate system works, right? And so have a look at that. And then we did the assignment here. So a couple of things I want to show you. I want to show you this website here. This is from John Cook. This is Skeptical Science, and you've seen him before. He's the guy behind this idea of the consensus, behind Cranky Uncle. We'll show you that in just a second. Flick, and so on and so forth. And he has a nice website here. The website looks a little weird, but it's actually really good material on this website. So check this out, A History of Flick, the 5 Techniques of Science Denial. So there's some interesting material here that he posted. So here's the 5 techniques: fake experts, logical fallacies, impossible expectations, cherry picking, and conspiracy theories. And then of course these all get a lot more sort of nuance then as you start to dig into them. And he has prepared this very great resource, I'll show you that in just a second, where he states the myth, the misconception, and the fact, and then explains what logical fallacy is represented by that myth. So really interesting stuff here. And of course it gets a little bit more complicated. We have the fake experts, there's 3 different types. Logical fallacies, there's a whole bunch of them. Impossible expectations, well, that's pretty straightforward. This idea of expecting perfection before we can do anything, which is just crazy. Cherry picking, classic thing, we do that all the time. And then of course conspiracy theories as well. So have a look at this really interesting material here. He explains this very nicely, this idea of a fake debate, false analogy, conspiracy theories, and then all kinds of material down here. It's actually almost a little bit overwhelming, I will admit that. But good stuff nonetheless. He also compiled this great listing here of the sort of most common myths and misconceptions. And again, you can just scroll through, climate has changed before, it's the sun, there is no consensus. We talked about a bunch of those, right? CO2 lags temperature, the hockey stick is broken, all kinds of stuff, glaciers are growing, and look at how many there are, right? I 50, so these are all myths and misconceptions that are out there. Here on this website, he provides you with, the myth and then associated the scientific fact. So really good material here, Skeptical Science. Here's a beautiful, another way he presents it. So again, this idea of myth, right? So for example, global warming stopped in 1998. That was a popular myth and misconception, in 2005, 2006, 2010, something like that, right? And then he contrasts that with the actual fact. He explains the logical fallacy, and then he provides a video that explains exactly the scientific side of this story. And it's just really fantastic stuff. So really, really convenient material here. Right? This is the one you hear all the time. Volcanoes produce more CO2 than humans. Okay, that's a myth. Here's the fact. Here's the logical fallacy. And then here is the video. So really good material here. So remember Flick, fake experts, logical fallacies, impossible expectations, cherry picking, and conspiracy theories. And then it gets more complicated. You can slice it even finer. You can take your pie and slice it into more and more slices. But at the end of the day, when you look at misconceptions and fallacies and myths, you kind of categorize them like this. And just be aware of that, right? That there is just all that this stuff is out there. And you as the president, or you as a voter, as a person in democracy, should be able to recognize it and then properly deal with it. And one thing you can do is this funny book he wrote, Cranky Uncle. I bought it. I actually have it. It's a great book. It's using his cartoons and his humor to sort of contradict the cranky uncle, the climate change denier that you might have in your family, right? And he has a lot of material available online here on this website about the book. There's a game. There's also an app that's available, or that's at least coming out. There's a blog you can follow. You can follow him on social media. So he posts a lot of really good material and resources that you can use in terms of this in this world of like, hey, how do you talk to somebody who's at the different spectrum from you in terms of the 6 Americas? How do you talk to your cranky uncle who's let's say dismissive or doubtful, whereas you might be on the concerned alarmist side of the spectrum, right? So how do you have these conversations? So that was week 8 for you. Let's go back to our cookbook. Of course, there's the assignment. You can check that out. We'll see you again next week for week 9. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it.